Culture gets tested when things change, and AI is changing everything. So the question is, does it make your company more human or less? And that's why I'm talking to Jennifer Schielke today. She's the CEO of Summit Group Solutions and the author of Leading for Impact. And she helps leaders rebuild their culture while technology reshapes how we work. I'm Bryon Morrison. Let's get to the leaders list.
Everything is happening through these screens.
How are we getting the most out of that person?
I want to see this thing grow long term.
Amazing story. You have such a unique perspective on that.
Schedule a 2-week vacation.
I applaud those models.
Undervalued.
Secure your digital footprint as well.
Why were they even put in place in the first place?
Only the most adaptable survive. Let's get to the leaders list. Jennifer Schielke, CEO of Summit Group Solutions and author of Leading for Impact. Welcome to the leaders list.
Thank you. You make it sound so exciting. This is going to be fun.
It is exciting. It's exciting to have you on. I just want to jump into it immediately because you have so many things going on. There's so much interesting stuff that you have to offer. Let's talk first about Summit Group. You've had that for many years, and so talk to us a little bit about what Summit Group is, and then we'll back into some of the other things you're doing.
Sure. Summit Group is an IT staffing and recruiting firm. And so we get to connect the brilliant technologists with companies that are doing amazing things that impact really our communities across the globe. And I have to say, I am a co-founder, but it was not my idea. This was actually my partner, Bryon Schielke, my husband. This is his world and what he was in, and he merely invited me into it. And so 18 years later, here we are. If you had said the word entrepreneur to me, as a type A accounting major many years ago when I started off at Deloitte, I would have just brushed it off. Didn't think that that was the route for me. Far too risky as well. But I really love the ownership and accountability behind it. And it took me probably about 5 years to adjust to the people factor of the business world. And quite honestly, I wasn't sure about that. It was much easier doing SEC reporting or auditing and, being behind the computer. And now I embrace it and I absolutely love it. And it has completely shifted how I approach leadership, how I approach each day. And I've just learned so much.
Well, you embrace it so much that today you have written a book on leadership. You speak consistently on the impact and need for people and culture. And so, that's an interesting perspective because you're right. The accountants in the room are going, yeah, we can do that too. So that's great. So, but talk about what inspired that because now you've gotten to a point where after you started in, what was it, 2008?
2008, correct. I mean, because when the
Yeah.
economy is crashing, why not start a business?
That's a perfect time. I love it. And actually it is for a lot of people, right? Because you
It
find
is.
that that's your best avenue. So
Right.
so when you started that, how long did it take? If we're talking about our leaders list and we're talking about our stages of growth, how long did it take for you guys to get to a point where you said, no, this is a real business?
We were very fortunate because that first year we hit the ground running. And it was just the two of us, so it was easy to say, our revenue line was positive,
Sure.
our profit line was positive. It wasn't great that first year, but we knew that it was working, and we actually started it in Arizona while we were in Washington because we wanted to honor a non-compete. So when we came to Washington 2+ years later, we were off and running, and it really worked from the get-go. And it was because I think we were very invested in the relationship piece, which I know is big now, and it should have been big then, but I think it has reshaped itself over the years. So we were very fortunate, and we just skyrocketed. It took a little bit. I think in 2015, I came out from the background and really took the CEO reins and started with an advisory group and got into our values. And that's when I engaged because that's when I really believed that there was something other than just staffing and recruiting, which is helpful, but I needed more and I needed a fuller purpose. So that's about 2015 is really when I really engaged and all this value piece started. And then in 2018, 19, 20, 21, that's when we were a two-time Inc. 5000 awardee. I don't know if it's 21 or 22, and being that it was so important to me, I got to nail that down. But we were also an Inc. Power Partner. And for me, that is what meant the world to me, because that was our clients telling them why us, why Summit Group. Mm-hmm. And that is the moment where I thought, oh, this is what makes it worth it. This is definitely what makes it worthwhile.
We have arrived, right?
We have arrived. And there was a little glimmer of that, earlier on when I would hear a consultant who wasn't with us anymore, and he came back and we were talking and he was being interviewed and I didn't know what was going to be asked, but they asked him why Summit Group, basically. And he started talking and he brought our values through. And that's very hard. It's very easy, or I think it's easier internally. But when you try and carry that out to people who are predominantly contractors by nature, there are employees because that's how we run the business, but they're independent contractors normally. It's hard to bridge that gap. And he said it so beautifully. And that is actually when I thought, this is it. This is why we've arrived. And so those are the things that make it fulfilling for me.
What an amazing feeling. So now let's talk about where the business is today. What growth stage would you say that Summit Group is in?
Interestingly enough, right now, I feel like we're rebuilding again. I don't know if rescaling is a good, we're rebuilding. And we're now permanently in Arizona and permanently in Washington State. But we go where our clients go. And there's more dialogue now, and we're also trying to expand the breadth and depth of services that we do. Yes, we're IT staffing and recruiting, but there's individuals on both sides of that we feel would benefit by coaching one-to-one or team engagement, the professional development piece that is so necessary now. So that's what we're expanding into.
And that's a personal passion for you too, right? I mean, it makes perfect sense for you to go down that path. Do you find that it makes the business more complex? And is that accepted? Or was that one of those things that was an unfortunate byproduct of following your passions?
I think it's accepted. I'm not sure yet. I think we're still they feel very separate. And I'm trying to find a way to blend them together. And we have some great ideas. So we're looking forward to executing them and seeing really how individuals who are candidates and employees benefit. I think that's probably easier, but also clients, not just to consider us for their IT staffing needs, but jump way over to the HR side. And how about engagement? We've done some training, but it was IT specific too. So just being there for them in other capacities and finding ways to tether the two. And we've historically done things that benefits all vendors, not just us. We do it because it makes everybody better. And we want to keep doing that.
And so that was probably being responsive and opportunistic when clients talk to you and they need help and you see that you just want to help, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And that's where that came from. Whereas now it sounds like you're being more purposeful and intentional about the additional services you want to provide, right?
Correct. I mean, just nailed it with intentionality. It's when you see things enough times, you want to offer and you want to help. And for me, it's just getting that credibility behind it to have enough to have them benefit from it, not just be there as a sounding board, but give them a little bit more.
Well, it's ironic that you've focused on people in technology for years, and today that's never been more disrupted with changes from AI, agentic, solutions, management of agentic solutions. Like we are getting into a very different world in technology, and I would guess it's not surprising that you're focusing more on humans in this process.
Yeah, it isn't. And I think in addition to what you said, one thing I noticed in an economy that was growing pretty steadily, very quickly for a
Yeah.
number of years, there was a
Yeah.
training gap. People were moving, they were being promoted, but things were moving so fast, they weren't being given the opportunity to be trained as extensively, to be informed of policies, procedures, the how-tos behind being a leader. They were thrust forward and it was kind of learn as you go, which is fine. And
Yeah.
a lot of people thrive in that area, but there's more. And when we think of the differential between Gen X and millennials, and then millennials and Gen Z, it's not the same framework that we've been looking at years past, especially between boomers and Gen X. It's still a very traditional landscape, I think. Now things are extremely different, and people need some assistance in how to adapt to that, and knowing that, hey, they're not alone. There is a big gap, and it's basically everywhere.
Oh, okay, so it's everywhere. I was going to ask you, is it more on the candidate side, or do you find it more on the organizational side?
I think it's both. And the reason
Yeah.
I think it's both is I've seen the resistance on the candidate side to the movement and shift in the market from being candidate dominant, driving everything, to company dominant, driving everything. And I had never seen, normally it sways back and forth, and it's good to sway back and forth. There was such a resistance to let go because there was such a prominent, we want this, therefore we should get it. And that's the way it has been. And there was such a high demand in the IT sector, especially. And I think that just sets the stage for everything else. So the acceleration, I guess I might make up some words. You can call me, but the acceleration of the salaries and the compensation, being that, we sat amongst the giants, it bled over. But when that's no longer there and you have a highly compensated, high potential and skilled person transitioning to mid-size or smaller companies, that's difficult because you have to let go of some of that. And we just got to a place where it was unsustainable for the economy at whole. So
Sure.
that's tough. And that doesn't even include people working from home and then being called back and everything that's going on. We have a very complex economy right now. So the complexities increase and the needs increase along with them.
So that's creating a tectonic shift. So as you're going through this process, what is on your leaders list? What are you going to get right this year?
Oh, that's a big question. I better nail this one. For me, honestly, it's not that I wasn't always people focused, but I'm really narrowing down and focusing into that engagement and culture perspective. And I have so many voices say the buzzword, but it's always been important to me. And I really feel like if you know your people well and you have the customers and the business to go along with it, if they feel like this is an environment where they can stumble, fall, get up, grow, and it doesn't hurt so much doing it, we all get better. So I'm really fine tuning how I can serve better in that arena and encouraging companies to do the same. And it doesn't, culture and engagement, I guess maybe that's cheating because it's impacted by a lot of things. Professional development is a big thing for me. It's really important, and all of that really is tied into that engagement and culture, because you can't have those if the other foundation points are not put together.
Yeah. As I hear that, and I know you're on the scale of magician to technician, like you're a magician, right? So that sounds like your own, you're establishing the services and solutions that you do naturally.
Mhm.
Are you extending that out to the rest of your organization? Or are you talk about how you're bringing your own leadership team along in that process? Because you went out, you wrote a book, you speak, you are yourself a well-known individual, but that's oftentimes how companies end up with a bottleneck, right? Because the magician is somebody that everybody just starts to build around. But you're also a specialist in culture. So I know that you've probably thought through that, but how have you managed through that and what's your team look like that's helping you through it?
So I think this is really important. I dialogue with my team. Communication is so important. I'm not saying I'm the best, but I'm very aware of how important it is. And fortunately, I have a team who dialogues with me. So I tell them what's going on and I tell them why I'm doing it. I became a certified member of the Maxwell leadership team because culture oriented, engagement oriented, lots of tools to offer. And I share it with them. I actually am coached two members of my team, two senior members of the team, so that they understood what I mean by coaching and what that experience is like. And then we are putting together packages where we feel comfortable and are a part of it. Masterminds, book clubs, things like that. They're really important for people who don't have formal advisory boards or peer groups to have those and just commit to 4 weeks. You're learning because you're reading a business book, you're dialoguing with people who have different perspectives. Those things are important. They're so easy to do. So, to answer your question, communicating what's going on, what my thoughts are, having them challenge it, and really they just embrace it. I'm very lucky. The more the pieces that they are good at, that they like to do, we can lean into because I can't do everything. But I also tell them I don't want them to feel abandoned while I chase this new shiny, it's not new, but this embrace the new opportunities that are with my passion. They're just coming along with me and they're taking control of other pieces of the company too, where I let go and I review, and they're doing fantastically. It gives them a chance to step up and step into something of their own as well.
It's perfect. So did you formalize a succession plan and an ability, to give you that ability, or did it just happen organically because you had the right people, they were, engaged, you knew what you wanted? Talk a little bit about that process because I tend to think some leaders believe that they have done that, but they haven't been as formal about it to communicate to other people the expectations and to formally change responsibilities and document it and communicate it consistently. So just give a feel for how you did it.
So, formalize is still forthcoming.
Hmm.
And part of that is we haven't figured out exactly what the offering should be in whole, or offerings, I should say, and what they should look like. And is there going to be a separate entity? Or are we just going to put it all under Summit Group? We're still working through a few of those pieces, and there's a
Got it.
trademark coming too. So we're just dialoguing, but everyone's in on it. So,
Yeah.
the separation, everyone just steps up. I would like to say I've got a formal plan and here's how you do it. I am lucky because we talk about it and I have great people and they get excited for me. When I tend to feel like I haven't been available, that's when I know, oh, I gotta stop. I need to pause and re-engage because I'm leaving them behind a little bit. So they will ask questions or I will tell them where we are, what I'm doing, and ask what they think. So we're at the informal stage. There will become a formal process probably later in the year. I was thinking around October. It might come sooner than then, where we can decide, okay, how are we going to piece these together? What is this going to look like? Am I an effective CEO for this stage in time? What if I love doing this and I want to be in charge of this? How do we reshape it within our team so that I can do this? Is that the best idea? What I don't want to be is someone who's not responsive and not present for my team, because those two things are very important to me. And, I'm the one, if someone says, I got to call someone at 2 a.m, that's me. I'm the one who picks up the phone and they can reach. And I never want that to change because that's the kind of leader I am. Is that the best leader for where we go from here? I can step into any shoes, but so can probably other people on our team. So I want to be
Yeah.
very mindful of that and what that looks like. So it'll be a discussion we probably will have in July in looking forward. I don't feel like it'll be difficult because I feel like we're all on board and things we have very different skill sets amongst us and things tend to just shift. And
Yeah.
we've been really blessed that way. So, and we're all in for what's best for the people we serve.
That's awesome. And you guys are going to, so I'm going to have you back on because I should have known that when you said you're in a rebuild stage, it really sounds like it is a formation stage. And that's very smart of you, right? Because you want to nail it before you scale it. You got to get that right.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense. I'm sure you're doing some test and learn process and, working through that. So yeah, so I'm going to have you back when you
Sounds
get to that stage, and we're going to
fantastic.
find out how it works. Okay, so now let's shift the perspective because you've been in business for a long time. You've built your business. Now you're going through this process. Um, I'm curious, what have you learned, and what is the most important things you would suggest should be on our leaders list for the other CEOs that are running companies and scaling their businesses?
Check your ego at the door and commit to making yourself better. We come in with expertise, and they're probably very good if we're going to start a company and we're going to go, but there's so much that we need to learn. So I really believe, I don't think I was a high ego person, maybe just in defense, just pretending that I could. But
Yeah.
I do see it often enough to go, ooh, you got to check the ego at the door. Because if you check the ego at the door, you learn more, you're more self-aware, and you're willing. That willingness is really important. There are a lot of leaders who think they've made it, and they have, depending on what your markers are. But that doesn't mean that that's it. There's more to learn. And I say with, especially two newer generations coming in who have been here really, but they're coming into the leadership positions. That's going to change things. And we need to adapt to that. And we still need to pour into people. I think mentorship died a long time ago. I don't want to blame Gen X. I love Gen X. I am Gen X. But I feel like it fell off a little bit. And we need to pull it back in and make that a normal thing that we do as leaders. So set yourself aside. Focus on learning constantly. It's really important. You don't need to know all the answers, but you need to know where to get the answers.
What is the best way to go get those answers? Because it's interesting, right? I mean, if you think about, there's tons of work style assessments out there, and
Sure.
personally, I find those very valuable. There's a lot of argument that they make no sense and doesn't really matter, but I have found that it gives a language for leaders to be able to talk to their staff and talk to each other and understand where you're coming from. And one of the things that we do when we work with clients is we often recommend developing your own personal user manual. And that is a way for you to communicate intention. And the more that we start thinking about people working remotely and digitally and not having the same kind of contact, having that user manual to say, this is me and where I come from, and I'll be vulnerable with you, and
Mm-hmm.
I will tell you who I am, my strengths and my weaknesses. That's one of the things that, just in this same vein of
Yes.
constant improving. But where do you go and where do you recommend clients go to get that information about how to improve?
Well, I'm right in line with you on those assessments. We hear about all of them. I say pick one and use it for that dialogue. Pick one that's simple enough that use it. I love DISC. I know there are people in my arena that don't like it at all. I love it because it gives a very simple framework that people can relate to and understand, and you can
Totally.
use it to have those difficult discussions too, but you also use it to understand yourself more and other people. And we need healthy dialogue more. So that's my take on the tools. I've used all of them. I think they're fascinating. They give you little glimpses of yourself that sometimes you're like, that's really spot on. And others are like, ah. But then I always look a little bit deeper and just try and see what it might be teasing out. What's really important is the commitment and the accountability. So whether it is a coach, a business coach, whether it is an advisory group, I think both really, but what suits you best, what you're ready for best is going to be best. I always tell my team as they come into, it's really important to have mentors in your life 5 years, 10 years away from where you are now. Peers, great, but they're not going to give you the same experience and level of knowledge that you would get from someone who's been in your seat, who's done things, who've been, at large enterprises versus startups. Very different environments, very different things. So I think where you get it is important. You got to know yourself, but go and get it. You do need accountability. For me, that's one of the things I did from the very beginning is if I'm stepping into the CEO role, I'm a co-founder and I'm a CEO. Oh, I can do anything I want to because I've seen it done. And I don't think that's the best approach. I think that's very dangerous. And
It is dangerous.
I would always have an advisory group to keep me in check, really, really key because it also shows that you have interests in developing others and being accountable to the team you're leading as well.
When did you form your advisory group?
2015, I believe, when I really just
So that was around that time. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And let me tell you, it was actually a Vistage group. And I walked in there, thinking I was going to do my presentation, and I did it, and it was great. And they looked at me and they said, Jennifer, we love your presentation. We expected nothing left. You came from Deloitte. You consulted a little bit. We knew what you were going to give us. And then they said, that's not what we want to know. We want to know about you. And boy, did that shock me. I just sat back and thought, I wasn't prepared for this. I was prepared for the business, Jennifer. And they really started teaching me to just, there is no business, Jennifer. There's just Jennifer. And I operate in all these realms and function in different hats, but it's still me. And that was really important and very vulnerable.
Yeah. That's super interesting. I think, one of the tests that I think is really interesting is the predictive index. And the reason for that is because it gives you your core and who you are. And the reason we use it is because it also shows how comfortable you are with who you are. And that is temporal, right? That changes depending on your environment, your situation, what's going on. But it is fascinating when you see someone who, like yourself, and a lot of the people who are listening to this, they run their own company or they are in a power position and they're comfortable with who they are. Their perception and their core are going to look pretty similar. But when you can start to understand and use tools to be able to immediately look at how other people, are they comfortable in their position? Are you making them act a certain way to try and keep up with you? It uncovers that. And I think, again, anything that will uncover those kinds of issues and let an opportunity for you to be vulnerable and in a safe way is incredibly powerful. And so you found that in your Vistage group. One of the things that we often do with clients is we'll help them set up advisory boards. Right. And because, to your point, they're all different kinds of points of input, and a client advisory board is also a recommendation I would make for people if they have not established that. Incredibly powerful to let those individuals come together and help you form and shape your business.
Yeah. And it's very honoring to them. I mean, here are the clients, that's who you serve. And to ask them to step out and do that is an honor for them. It really is. And they can teach you a lot. But that's how they know you trust them and respect them too, which really gets that relational connection that is so important as well. And so, I've switched advisory boards. I'm in a C12 advisory board now, but I also have the Maxwell group too. So I have a lot of accountability. I have a lot of, and sometimes it's very uncomfortable and sometimes it's hard, but that's when I know I'm growing. But something you said about being comfortable and knowing who we are, so critical. One thing I would say that I had to really watch for was I'm a direct communicator. And I thought that was great because what I say is what I mean. But people would tell me, okay, but sometimes it sounds a little bit harsh. Sometimes there are people who aren't also direct communicators. So you speak very clearly, but their eyes are big and they may even think they've been reprimanded. The pleasantries in my email are not there. It's just, I'm checking up on you. When I want to talk to you, I'll dial you up or show up, next to you in the office. And so it's learning. There are things that we know and are comfortable with. And that other layer is, and what other people are too. It's being aware of the reactions that you're getting. And that's also why I do like one-to-one interactions is I'm very aware of the person on the other side. When you get a bigger room, it's hard to read everybody, though you can sense it, you can feel it, but I love just calling it out right there because I don't want people to sit in that. I want to bring people out of it so we can move forward together. And again, I just think that's so critical. I love predictive index as well. I think the important thing too is they have experts like you walking them through those things because people think, oh, I think I got it. And then they go out on their own, but there's so many nuances to the tools. And if you don't know how to use them, you're leading yourself astray and doing a disservice to the team and the tool, both.
Yeah. God, that's such good input. Jennifer, I'm so glad that we had some time with you. I'm excited to see what is going to happen with the summit group and yourself. And I'm curious if, when we're finished listening to this, we're going to go do one thing. What is that one thing you would say, hey, stop listening and go do this right now?
Oh, go talk to your team. Go talk to your people. Be invested in them. The reason that's so important is the connection, right? It's humanity. It's a good thing to do. But if you know them, you will know how to incentivize them. And I'm telling you this from failure. I'm telling you this from experience. When I think I'm rewarding someone and I'm giving them the last thing that they would ever feel like they received as a reward for doing something good. If you are talking to your people, you have a better pulse than anyone on what your culture is, what the pain points are, how much they trust you. Who can trust someone they never see and never talk to? I can't. And we got to get that connection. So I would say, get out of your seat, go invest someone, dial someone up at Zoom, whatever that is, but have a conversation that is human and not just goal oriented, so you know what's going on in their lives, because there's a lot of people going through hard things and they don't want to bring it into the scene, but it's just good if someone's going through something, a celebration, it's graduation time. Do they have children that are graduating? What a nice note it would be to say, I hope your family enjoys this, celebration of the next chapter for your daughter, your son, whatever that is. It's such a personal note, and everyone wants to care or say they care, but I feel like a lot of people don't do the little things. They want big programs. You don't need big programs. You just need a human touch.
That's a mic drop moment, Jennifer. That's really well done.
I had to pull myself back a little bit because there's a passion there. It is true. Bigger isn't always better. Formal isn't always necessary. But we're human. We know how to do this. So just go and do. There's nothing more important than the person sitting across of you who is asking for your time. Nothing more.
Love it. Jennifer Schielke, thank you so much for being on the Leaders List.
Pleasure.